What's up, and welcome to the video. So we recently talked about the 5th generation iPad Air, and now we're here to talk about the 2nd generation iPhone SE, a slightly upgraded version from the phone we saw in 2020 with a slightly higher price tag, $429. So let's talk about the new SE and ultimately what that new price tag is going to get you. Now, before we get into the specifics of this iPhone, let's talk a little bit about the lineage of the SE line for a little bit. So Apple's idea behind the SE, which by the way SE stands for Special Edition, is to take the essentials of what an iPhone does really well, mainly the software experience, the powerful chip on board, and a good camera capable of producing good photos, and they'll put it into a very, let's say, affordable smartphone package by a lot of times reusing a previous iPhone's design. So the original SE, the 1st generation, that dropped in 2016, and that featured the Apple A9 chip. That was the same one found in the iPhone 6s at the time, which was really, really good. But the 1st generation iPhone SE reused the iPhone 5s's enclosure. So it was a little old in terms of design at the time, but it was still a perfectly good smartphone and a great option for a lot of people. Now in 2020, Apple drops the 2nd generation iPhone SE, and that featured the A13 Bionic, the same chip found in the iPhone 11, and it reused the design of the iPhone 8. Now here we are 2 years later, and Apple is still reusing the same iPhone 8 design, but this phone has internals to match it with the iPhone 13, the A15 Bionic with 4 gigs of RAM. Now, the nostalgia factor was definitely really cool for the first couple of minutes, especially with the chunky top and bottom bezels, Touch ID built into the home button, and that 4.7-inch super classic iPhone vibe display. But that nostalgia quickly wore away, and the phone started to feel relatively old about like 5 minutes later. So I think we're now at a point where Apple should potentially consider rebranding the smartphone from SE to something else because, I mean, just quite honestly, there isn't too much special going on with this smartphone. Reviewing a phone like the iPhone SE is always a little bit of an interesting experience because as I'm using the phone daily and I'm taking notes on it, I'm also thinking to myself, who exactly does Apple want to buy this smartphone that has this particular feature set at this particular price point? And I think ultimately what it comes down to is Apple is making this device to target a demographic of customers that just want a very familiar iPhone experience. They don't necessarily care about all the frills and features of the latest and greatest, most expensive flagship devices. They just want a phone that works, nails the basics, is relatively affordable, and quite honestly is going to last them a long time. And a lot of what we're seeing on the 2022 SE, we've seen on the 2020, down to reusing the same exact iPhone 8 enclosure, the same 12 megapixel camera on the back, although you will have some enhanced image processing thanks to A15. That same 4.7-inch, barely above 720p resolution LCD display on the front. Chunky bezels on the top and bottom, wireless charging on the back, an IP67 water and dust resistance rating. Now, of course, it's not all the same. There are definitely still some upgrades here. You do have the A15 Bionic, which is going to give you iPhone 13 levels of performance, so that's dope. It'll handle anything from browsing the web to mobile gaming just fine. You have 4 gigs of RAM instead of 3, so that's going to be great for performance and multitasking. And of course, you have an upgrade to 5G, which is obviously going to give you access to faster network speeds in your area if it's available for you. Now, one other thing, there is a slightly larger battery up to 2018 milliamp hours, which obviously isn't the biggest battery on the market, but given a phone this size with a power efficient chip like the A15, the battery life on this phone is perfectly acceptable. Now, of course, the biggest feature that returns on this device that is arguably what everyone is looking for with the familiar iPhone experience is going to be Touch ID built into the home button on the bottom, which is going to keep your iPhone secure. While we're on the topic of security, now more than ever, it's crucial to keep you and your information secure in an increasingly digital world. That's why I'm excited to announce that we have partnered with Aura, who is actually sponsoring this video. Now, Aura offers a lot of protection services, so stick with me on this one. Aura is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all rolled into one easy-to-use application. Aura can even monitor the dark web for your email, passwords, and your social security number and send alerts to your phone or your email. I mean, you can even connect your bank account and your credit card, and if Aura detects any changes in those, they can alert you up to 4 times faster than their competition. And Aura is so awesome that they have offered all of our viewers a 2-week free, no commitment trial. All you have to do is head to aura.com/thetechbros, and we'll also leave that link in the description for you as well. We think it's awesome. Head to the link, give yourself a 2-week free trial, see if it's for you. Let us know what you think in the comment section if you do sign up. And again, thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring this video. Now I want to talk about an aspect of the iPhone SE which I'm not necessarily too thrilled about, and that's the price. So in 2020, when Apple launched the second gen iPhone SE, that phone started at $399 for 64 gigs of storage, which back in 2020, that phone felt super competitive. And I think we actually on this channel highly recommended that device because of its ultra competitive price tag at that feature set in that point in time. But here we are 2 years later, and with each year that passes, budget phones are starting to get better and better and offer more and more features as time goes on. Not to mention, the 2022 SE has a price bump. It now starts at $429 for 64 gigs of storage. And quite honestly, I don't think I can recommend 64 gigs of storage to anyone but the most basic smartphone user that's really not going to take up much space on this device at all. And that's held true for the 64 gigabyte iPad Air and the 64 gigabyte iPad Mini. So if you do want to get an SE, I would highly consider paying $50 extra, $479 for 128 gigs of storage. So $50 gets you double your storage, but at $479 plus tax, you're probably above that $500 threshold, and you have a lot of other options to work with at that half of $1,000 smartphone price, including Apple's own iPhone 12 mini, which they still sell on their website for $599, and that's going to come with a slew of upgrades on its own. So there's definitely a lot to consider with a phone like the iPhone SE. I don't know what the future is going to hold for this particular device. I feel like if Apple continues to make this device, maybe they should start to consider stepping away from the iPhone 8 design language. Maybe jump into something like an iPhone 11, or if they're going to wait until 2024, another 2 years to drop a new SE, maybe something like an iPhone 12. I don't know. Only time will tell. But let me know what you think about the iPhone SE down in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit subscribe while you're down there. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. You will get slightly faster network speeds. Keep in mind it's going to be sub-6 5G, not millimeter wave.
Let's do it again.
Dude, all that was left was Touch ID, right? Yeah.